Okay, so where we left off on my trip here is this is the first morning out of Highway 40, where we had just had a really lovely reunion with all kinds of hikers, and Naomi had come out to be on trail with me, and she's going to walk all the way to the North Fork of the Feather with me, and that's a little town called Belden. Naomi, did you go further than Belden with me? Did you go further than Belden with me, or did you go home at Belden? You went home at Belden. Yeah, it's good. I just obviously I'm not making this really for the podcast. I'm creating this for my future self, to have my memories of things kind of organized. This is a pretty good trip. So, you know, and I've been on so many absolutely fantastic trips in my life, but I don't write things down about it. And it's like, was the Grand Canyon trip, was that 22 days? Was it 23 days? And it's like, I don't, like, there's a few things that stand out about it, but my memory, everything just kind of blurs together a lot. Um, so anyway, in the background there, you can see Summit and Hoot Owl getting their stuff together, and we're going to walk with them for a couple days. But they had a bigger agenda. They really wanted to be finished um, a fair bit earlier than I needed to be finished. I wanted to be finished with the trail by mid to late September, and Hoot Owl has a wonderful get together party with all of his buddies once a year, as they've scattered all over the place, back on the East Coast on September 6th. So they needed to boogie on, and I hope they made that party. I don't know, haven't run into them. Um, so anyway, uh, this is us stepping out of out of Highway 40. This is right where Donner Ski Ranch is, and Phenomenal and Sugar Bowl. And we're on our way to cross underneath Highway 80, and that this is the tunnel underneath Highway 80. Yeah, this is one of the ski huts that you can still visit. I don't remember the name of it. But the views really start to shift. This is a really spectacular view, but not as dramatic as the high Sierras. And so it takes a little bit of adjusting, but not much, to get used to the more subtle beauty. You don't always need to be hit over the head with striking, incredible views. I personally don't struggle with that. Like, I find basically anywhere that I am in nature just really spectacular, and and so a lot of people, I think, really struggle. I would say that this is the Northern California section. Different people say the Sierras are one end in some place and start somewhere else, and there's all this blurriness. And technically, you're still in the Sierras for a, a very long time, but everybody starts to just call it Northern California. And I don't really care why, but it definitely has a very different vibe than the high Sierras. Heck, when you can send home your ice axe and your micro spikes, and you don't have to have a bear can anymore and stuff, it's a very different vibe. It's easier to move, easier to make miles. Yeah. I think I'm pointing out Fordyce Lake here. There's a wonderful class 4 or 5 creek that spills out of that is released from that lake. It's like maybe uh, it it's generally a 1 day trip, but pretty rad creek to kayak. Okay, so we're at the 1200 mile marker. These are lovely things where they're just, like pumps where you can get water. The water that comes out of these things are notoriously fantastic. Way up at the top of this uh, little peak there's a fire lookout. And I think maybe the day before this we had met. I don't know. I'm ahead of myself. I can't quite tell where I am, but just another sunrise. Mm-hmm. Me waiting for my lovely wife to come catch up to me. Yep. It's so amazing how like nondescript so many things are. Ah, here she is waiting for me to catch up to her. Boy, we got really I wouldn't say lost, but um, this was a pretty funny section. Not lost, but we definitely ended up in the bushes, kind of rambling down through head high bushes down to a fire road here. This is the bridge over the middle fork of the Feather River. This would be one of the most classic 3 day class 5 runs in California, Devil's Canyon section. And so anyway, this is the bridge right above it. It's a epic swimming hole and enough camping for 20 people down on the north side of that bridge. Wonderful place to camp. And so this is our campsite that night. And we spent a lot of time down in the water, and we're getting ready to. The next day is like notoriously a big climb. I think you climb like 5,000 feet in 10 miles. You're on your way to Bucks Lake is the next place that we're going here. And so we're going to get up really early, headlamps and stuff, to catch that big climb, which is really exposed in the sun. We're going to catch that early. And so we're dreaming of beers and resupply sandwiches or whatever in Bucks Lake the next day. I'm pretty sure that's what's our plan is for the next day. And so this is us with our stuff all strewn out. It's a wonderful campsite. This is us. We're obviously very far up the climb. We're up on the ridge at this point in time. Yeah. Yep. Classic High Sierra views. So, um, we what we were able to do here was we were able to take this 2 or 4 mile road walk down into Bucks Lake, and I really like the road walking thing. I think that a lot of people don't like the road walking thing. I really like it. So I really, yeah, I don't know what it is about it, but I really like the road walking stuff. And maybe it's just because it's just different. Most of the time you're on a tiny little trail, and this is, I don't know, it's nice. I like it. Yeah. This is Bucks Lake, and there were some sweet little ducks there, and we got into the little town pretty early, maybe around noon or so, and so we, got ourselves, you know, probably a 6 pack of beer and some White Claws. I think we each had one of those because I had never had one before, and people were kind of raving about them. And I have the tendency to drink IPAs, and they have so much alcohol in them, they don't really feel very hydrating. And Hollywood was like, "Hey, man, why don't you try it? Modelo or whatever. It's got less alcohol. They're more hydrating." And he's right. They are. They don't taste as good though. But the White Claws are similar. They seem like they're more hydrating. So anyway, this is us being like, dirty hikers getting out. I mean, her feet are awfully clean here, but so we just pulled up some shade, and I had had, 2 or 3 beers, and I was in this situation where I was just feeling like just so super fit, and we had done, I don't know, 13 miles, 14 miles, something like that, and climbed 5 or 6 thousand feet to get to this point. And I'd had a couple beers, and Naomi doesn't like to road walk. And so it was going to be 4.5 miles back to the Pacific Crest Trail going the other direction. So we were going to cut off like 4 or 5 miles of the Pacific Crest Trail. Mind you, I still have continuous footsteps at this point. I'm going to lose that later. But some people would like walk back up that road and then continue on the PCT, but I would prefer to walk up the road and join the PCT again. I lose 4 miles of the PCT, but I don't have to go and walk it, but I still have continuous footsteps. So that's kind of where I'm at with those kinds of things. And so I was just like fired up, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna jog up to the PCT, and then I'll hitch back to town. You can hang out here and hang out in the shade, and I'll hitch back. And then in the evening, we had been invited to somebody's camp. Like this little grassy spot is literally right next to a really big campground, and we had kind of went walking into some guy's camp thinking that he was the camp host. We asked him a few questions, and then he found out that we were PCT hikers. This guy turns out to be, an ex-felon. I don't know, are you ever an ex-felon, or are you just an out-of-prison felon? I don't know, whatever. Great guy, very gregarious, and he invited us over for barbecue. I don't know what he made, maybe tacos or whatever it was, but it was all this, like, this guy was a cook, and he was really into like our hike and stuff like that. And so he's like, "Hey, come over for beer and wine tonight, and we'll feed you guys dinner and whatever." And I was like, "Oh, well, after dinner, he will definitely give us a ride up to the trail. So after dinner, we'll be able to get in a number of miles." And so that was what I did. I think Naomi walked back over to the store to get herself an ice cream or something like that. The store was only a quarter of a mile away, maybe a little further than that. And I turned left and went jogging up this road, and I just took my shirt off, didn't take any water with me, and it was hot. I'm confident that it was in the upper 90s, and it's all uphill back up to the trail, but a very low grade, you know. But I hadn't been running very much. I hadn't run very much, a little bit, and I have the tendency to run a lot. And and so I started running up this hill, and at first it was like my body couldn't be quite coordinated or whatever, but but I I was shocked because here I am running uphill mile after mile, and I wasn't getting tired. I don't know the elevation of Bucks Lake. It's yeah, I don't know. Probably I'm sure it's at 6,000 feet, 5,000 feet, seven. It's not at 7,000 feet, but it's pretty high up there. And so anyway, I jogged up this thing like it was nothing, and my pace was good, and it was one of the most amazing experiences because it's like, here I am at 55 years old, or maybe, yeah, I think 55 years old, and I'm just cruising right along up this hill, and it's like I'm not even making myself tired. And it was so great because, then I'm like, okay, well, obviously I'm going to be able to run this whole distance. I didn't need any water, and it was like full sun and just cooking, and it was awesome. And I get up to the top, and there's this big black Mercedes Sprinter van, and right as I get to the trailhead for the PCT, um, this guy basically sticks his head out the window and he's like, "Oh, hey, you need a ride?" And I'm like, "I sure do." And it turns out to be this guy. His trail name is Big Guy. He's from the East Coast, and his family was trail angeling him. His mother and father were trail angeling him, and I don't know what they were doing up there. Maybe they had just picked him up. Maybe, I bet that's what happened, was that they had just picked him up and they were on their way back down to Bucks Lake, and they were looking for a place to camp. And I'm like, oh, hey, I know of a campground. So they gave me the ride, the 4 miles back. And so it didn't take me an hour from when I left Naomi till when I came, walking right back in, settled down, and opened another beer. And so that was really great. And we had this just absolutely fantastic dinner with this guy. I'm referring to him as the felon because it's like I don't remember his name. Maybe I have a picture of some. I think he makes some sort of like rub for barbecuing or something like that. Maybe I've got a picture of it here in a couple minutes. But we had a wonderful, wonderful time, and then his lady um, drove us back up to the trailhead where I had jogged to and met Big Guy, and then we started out and we got in some good night hiking. And so, yeah, this is the dead soldiers from the afternoon of drinking. Okay, so his name was Keith. And so, yeah, good guy. Glad I have that. Yeah, so after dinner, we go walking up this. Here we are trying to get ourselves some pictures as it's getting dark. And we walked well into the dark this night. I think that this was the night that I knew of this plateau that that I really wanted to camp at. Hang on just a second. Naomi, did we stay at that plateau on our anniversary? At the Middle Fork of the Feather? Okay. Okay, so that's a good thing for me to know is okay. Okay. So I guess our 29th anniversary, we slept down on the middle feather. On the middle feather, we had our 29th anniversary on the middle feather. Oh, that's lovely. Say that again. Day one. I don't know what day one means. I'm talking about the anniversary. Was we stayed down on the middle feather? Okay, and so yeah, so that middle feather. So now I'll get this logged into my brain that it was down on the middle feather that we had had our 29th anniversary. So here we are facing our 30th anniversary here in a few months. How wonderful! While our kids are out on the Continental Divide Trail. And so anyway, we walked well into the dark to get to this one ledge that I was confident I would be able to find because the sunrise is epic, and there's so many photos of it. So this is the next morning, and so we cowboy camped on this ledge overlooking this scene here. It's a pretty spectacular scene. So I would say best sunrise of the trip. Yeah, probably best sunrise of the trip. So if you're looking for where this is, it is not a. It's a very common place for people to sleep. Most of the places where people camp is about 200 yards up the hill from this. You walk out, down this hill, and then you just keep walking out until it cliffs out. And then there's a few places to camp out here, and it's a fair number. It's pretty obvious, and there's a lot of people talking about it on Far Out, so you'll be able to find it, but it's before you drop into the North Fork of the Feather. So it's on the ridge between the North Feather and the Middle Feather. Okay, so this is us walking towards the Middle Feather, or the North Feather. We've got a huge, terrible downhill coming. It's hard to imagine a terrible downhill, but this is us in the town of Belden. And so this is when we were here this last time. This was this is kind of gross. Sorry about having these. Those are gross. So I'll bop back over to here. I stayed here for 2 nights. This is like in the little town of Belden. The food is very marginal. The people are nice, but it seems like a super drug infested. I don't know that it is, but it seems like a super drug infested place. And I believe it was Kai that came and picked up Naomi and whisked her away, and then I stayed one more. I stayed one more night to just get myself a zero in. And this was where, it's like I took, my shaver and shaved my head, because it's just, you're going to be in the sun all the time. And my strategy is to, how do you dissipate as much heat as possible? And so I decided to shave my head here at this place. I knew it was going to have months to grow out, and I don't really mind looking like a kook. So so that was what happened there. It's really good times, ran into all kinds of hikers that I have run across and stuff. Really, really nice. And so then the hike out of Belden is a notoriously long, I would say by this space in the trip. Your adversary is the heat, not the gradient. The gradient it's not steep, but I think it's like 14 miles of uphill. And so my strategy, I've got a freshly shaved head, um, so just in every single creek, I would just go and stand in the creek. I would prefer to walk with wet socks and shoes and cool my whole body down. And I would take my shirt off and put my shirt in the creek, and then I'd put my shirt back on. And by the time things dry out, then you're at the next creek, and so you can just keep rinsing yourself off and staying as cool as possible. And that worked really well. I didn't even, I didn't get tired. I don't know how many miles I did that day, but it was like 30 or 25 or whatever. But I think, oh yeah, okay. So they're up in this upper meadow. There's where you're stepping from technically the end of the Sierras, and you're stepping into the Cascade Range. And so this is the picture going north. And I have a picture going south there also that says that if you were walking south, you would be entering the High Sierras. I don't have it in this slide collection though. So this is mile 1300. And right up in here somewhere, I ran into a wonderful couple that I remember running into them in Lee Vining. Yeah. And this was the epic. This was, you know, an incredible experience. Yeah, okay. This is the only picture I have of it, but there's a group of people, and this is Humboldt Pass. And so I had walked, um, I'm pretty sure I walked from Belden to this place, and I came in, just a little bit. This is pretty late in the day. And I don't know. I wish I knew some of these distances, but I don't know that I was tired, but I sure was happy to see this thing all set up. You come into an area like this and you start seeing like pop up tents and stuff, and you just know that this is going to be some trail magic. Well, this was, I think, the people's 15th year doing it, and they had it dialed. They, and of course, they won't take any money. And they've got 30 chairs out, there's 25 people there. There's probably their support crew was probably 10 people. I come walking in there, and there's like 6 to 8 tables of food. I mean, all kinds of wonderful luncheon meats and all kinds of different breads and all the condiments you could ask for, and every kind of candy bar you can imagine, and cookies and brownies and homemade stuff and store-bought stuff and cheeses and beer, and like super good beer. And they had Starbucks frappuccinos in the bottle and sodas. I mean, it was just like they know exactly what all of the PCT hikers want. And so everybody sat around and pigged out, and it was just another one of these experiences of generosity that, and they're like, so everybody, it gets to be hiker midnight, whole thing breaks up, and, you're setting up your place to sleep, in the twilight. And I just threw my stuff down to sleep under the stars, and that turned out to be a mistake because mosquitoes showed up. And that was the only night that I lost sleep because of mosquitoes. So I got that was a drag. And but you can kind of burrow down underneath your quilt and kind of hide from them a bit. But it was kind of too hot to do that, and whatever. So mistakes. And But the next morning they're up and they're making pancakes and French toast, and they've got sausages and maple syrup and butter and everything, and then they're just you're walking out of their thing, and they're like, okay, well, you're going to run across the midpoint of the PCT today, so you need to take some beers with you. And it's like, are you kidding me? And so it's like, so then we've packed out some beers. Um, we packed out some beers to take to the midway point, and and so that's what this next photo is. So here I am with my Budweiser. I think I had two Budweisers with me for the midway point. That was really quite wonderful. I think I shared, who was with me? I think it was Tarzan. I think it was Tarzan that was with me. I think the two of us drank beers here together. Oh, and then I think a fair number of other people showed up. Okay, so this, I wasn't with Sandman here, but I got this photo off. He sent me this through Instagram, and so I threw this in here. This was actually like, I don't think we had even met yet. So this is just a picture of Sandman. He ends up being a buddy of mine. We hiked hundreds of miles together. Really good dude. Lives in Tennessee. Okay, so that's the other photo of me. So midway point, big deal. Big deal. Okay, so this is that photograph. So this is I had gone down into Chester, and as you can see, so this is my buddy Bobcat from Germany that I was telling the story about, and you can see that slice on his head, and look at how good that turned out. And he had, he took quite a fall. What an incredible thing for for both of us, that I had the skills and the tools to put his frickin' forehead back together, and it turned out that good. I'm obviously very proud of that. That's a story for my life history book right there. Good dude, strong dude. You can see how solid of a dude that is. All right, so this was a crazy thing. So when we were walking down into Chester, um, this is where we stayed at this I don't know what it's called or whatever, but they're you know really, I mean, talk about generous people. They're just like, okay, all of you dirty frickin' backpackers, you can use our bathroom and take showers, and there's you know, ways to. It's just another one of these things where somebody just opens up their house, donations are accepted, and they have tons of beer and food to pick through, and all these donation stuff, and they're only like a half a mile from town. And what had happened was there was this big soccer match going on between, I think, Spain and England, and so all the frickin' English, and they're I just happened to be in a bubble with like 8 people from England, and they're crazy about soccer. And I can watch a soccer match, but I don't even really understand what the game, like I couldn't explain offsides, right? And but they're fired up, and it's some big to do. It'd be like the Super Bowl for American football. And they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna go here and whatever, and there's only this one bar that maybe is going to be able to do it. And it's really funny because the next day after this, we all end up, where are we, like we end up at this bar. And so I came walking in. I happened to be the first one there, and I told the guy at the bar, and there's like, it's like 11 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And I said to the bartender, he's got his 6 buddies sitting around, and this is just like, I think this is in Bernie or Chester or whatever it happens to be. And It's a small town bar, and so it's the normal crowd of 5 or 6 guys sitting around talking shit and laughing, right? And drinking at 11 o'clock on whatever, and it must have been a Saturday or whatever. And this barkeep, he's like, "Hey, what can I help you with something?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, let me get a beer, whatever." I ordered one of these num num juices. They're so fantastic. And I'm like, "You're about to have like 30 to 40 hikers come in here to watch a soccer game." And they're like, "What?" And they're all just talking smack. It's just like, and so the guy walks over to the second TV, which is pictured there, and it's like a 36-inch TV or whatever, and so there's going to be 30 or 40 hikers huddled around this TV watching this and drinking. And the guy's funny because the other guys are watching like NASCAR or whatever, and they're like, "Well, we're watching this on this, so you guys can watch that on that." And he's like, and he gets a sticky note and he writes out of order on it and sticks it on the TV. And so I'm like, "Oh, this is going to be funny." So I sit at the bar and I'm not going to say anything. So all the Brits start showing up, and they recognize that there's a bunch of guys watching NASCAR, and then the TV has got an out of order sign on it. And so the guy led these Brits on for a while, because he knew how much they cared. And I had talked with him about it a little bit and stuff like that. So it was overly funny. And so then, not everybody, but um, we all proceeded to have. I definitely drank too much, and got back out on trail that afternoon, and that you know, tough, kind of a inappropriate way to get back out on the trail. I wasn't throwing up or anything, but I was definitely drunk. So I'm probably making my way. This is a beautiful bridge. This is over the upper reaches of the North Fork of the Feather. That's another picture of the North Fork of the Feather. So neat. This is out, I believe this is on the rim trail out of Hat Creek. And just another one of these very dry sections. People leave water for you. It's There's just so much gratitude for that. I'm sure this is Hat Creek. Yeah, this is Hat Creek. I remember Tarzan and I went walking into the little store there at the Hat Creek outlet and stuff like that. And that's Lassen, I think. And we were, eating ice cream for breakfast. I'm not even an ice cream person, and I was eating ice cream for breakfast. And some lady shows up and she's like, "Let me buy you some stuff." And we're like, "We're good. Like, we're good." And so she couldn't take it. So she went in and bought us a whole basket full of garbage hiker looking food. And we took it, but um, she just wanted to hear stories and chat with people out on a good adventure. That looks like Shasta off in the distance. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. So much. So that's Bernie Falls. the actual area was kind of closed off. And so this was the best picture. It's a wonderful picture of the falls, really beautiful. This is the creek that goes over Burney Falls. This is the bridge over Squaw Valley Creek. Squaw Valley Creek is a tributary of the McCloud River. And a buddy of mine and I in early 2000, we had put in about 3 miles, 2 miles upstream of this bridge and kayaked the 12 miles of this little creek into the confluence of the McCloud and paddled down to the McCloud arm of Lake Shasta, where we took out overnight 24 miles, something like that. One of the better creeks I ever did. Oh man, I would never be able to describe where this is. Yeah, I mean, get used to looking at the comments for special camping sites, because this was out on a ledge somewhere, and you know, wonderful campsite. Tarzan and I stayed at this place together. I took too many photographs of it. Hopefully, I edited a bunch of them out. It's just the same photo over and over again. Yeah, so this is Tarzan and I getting down. This is the Kiwi. I spent a lot of time with him. And he's getting ready here. Let's see here. It was in Ashland that his dad is going to join him. And so his dad walked with him for a few weeks. And I got to meet his dad at Cascade Locks. That was really great, really good dude. And Tarzan, in his own right, is a really good dude. Uh, and so we spent a lot of time together. This was one of the things out on the trail that I never really realized. What you can see here. This person has bug spray. These ammo cans are just left out. This is a scrappy parking area right next to the McCloud River, and but as you can see there's a big propane bottle, and a lot of people carry these fuel transfer valves, so that if you come across, if you run out of fuel, you can get fuel from somebody else. But a lot of these uh, boxes and stuff now have quite a number of them have fuel, like full fuel canisters, and they're the really big ones. So the intention is that you just take as much fuel as you need and you leave the rest for other people, because people carry these, $20, $30 fuel transfer valves that you can get off of Amazon, and they don't weigh hardly anything. And I literally think that I bought um, maybe 2 fuel canisters on the entire trip. Maybe I bought maybe 3, something like that. But I was able to get fuel from discarded fuel canisters. There's enough people that are throwing away fuel that I was able to, you know, nicely supplement my trip. Probably saved myself a couple $100 in fuel, something like that. Um, yeah, so this is just the side of the can. These are the Far NorCal Trail Angel Association, or whatever they happen to be. And these were full of Nature Valley granola bars, which, my opinion's always been like, those are pretty low end. Those kind of suck. But man, out there, I was a fan. I was a fan. This is the McCloud River here. I'm up on a bridge, obviously. I don't know if you can see it. You can't see it. This Outdoor Vitals hat, Outdoor Vitals is a brand worth looking into. Um, they are basically taking things and innovating and They're making really good gear. So that owl is the logo for Outdoor Vitals, and their Outdoor Vitals Ventus jacket is it's certainly the best jacket I've ever owned. It's a mid-weight layer. I didn't even at this section of the trail, my puffy went home. I've got an Enlightened Equipment 7-ounce puffy jacket, and I chose to not have it because the Outdoor Vitals, what I would call a mid layer, is so warm. It's almost as warm as my Enlightened Equipment puffy. Um, and it only weighs 7 ounces, but it has a hood. So then you don't have to carry a beanie. And so, um, incredible yeah, take a look at the product. It's really fantastic. So Outdoor Vitals is great. But what I did before I left on the trail, and I wish I had a picture of the side of it, but you can order a snap kit from Ripstop by the roll, and you can put these little snaps on. I put like 6 little snaps on this hat so that I could snap on um, like a little piece of cloth to keep the sun off my neck so that I don't have to use the sunscreen, right? Because most sunscreens are cancer causing, right? You're right. That's an interesting thing to think about, right? So anyway, beautiful. There's 1,500 miles. 1,500 miles into the trip, you're still in California, and you're not close to the border yet. You still got, I think, 200 miles. 200. I don't know how far it is. It's a long way. So this is Dunsmuir. This is the little town of Dunsmuir, and I I would restructure my trip if I was to do this again. There was a little hostel like thing, and it was hostile, you know. Some lady like lets you stay at her place, and it was definitely the worst place that I stayed at. So I can't remember the name of it, and if I could remember the name, I probably wouldn't announce it. Not that anybody will watch this, but um, definitely my worst experience, and many people had really bad experiences. Um, and the town of Dunsmuir is not uh, worth being at as far as I'm concerned. I would take a hitch up to the little town of Mount Shasta if I was to do this over again. Um, and so anyway, this was the little town of Dunsmuir, and that experience wasn't fantastic. So this is what that resupply uh, looked like. I'm a super fan of Pro bars and Builder bars, and you can tell I was a real fan also of buying sausages. And in the high Sierras, I was buying sausages and and then just cooking a couple of them over a small fire. But sometimes it's inappropriate to build a fire, and so then I would just cook them over my stove, and that worked completely fine, and really nice way to have, and a couple of those is good for dinner. Uh, is a good option. Hopefully I'll remember to do that in the future. Yeah, a very typical resupply for me. Okay, so this is me taking off, going up into the Castle Crag wilderness, and I had to walk around a bunch of signs because the Forest Service had opened the section from I-5 to Etna Summit, but they hadn't removed the signs yet. So it kind of felt like I was doing stuff that I shouldn't be doing. I'm not completely opposed to that, but at the same time, I kind of like, I'll follow the rules sometimes. It's variable with me. So Castle Crag's really beautiful outcropping of rock, you know. I think that's a cedar tree, and these are some little pods that grow on a cedar apparently. I don't think I'd ever seen these things before. That's why I took the photo. Yeah. I love it that people, these are the kinds of things um, that uh, are real treasures out there. People. This little sign, like it hit me pretty hard. Um, what a thoughtful thing and really sweet. And so this is my third pair of shoes out on trail. I switched out my Topo Mountain Racer 3s for a pair of Hoka Speed Goat 5s. I wanted a little bit more cushion. I've kind of learned my lesson with Hokas that they are too narrow. Um, but at the same time, I wanted that little bit of extra cushion. And because I knew I was going to be doing more miles. And so I really wanted to see if I could create a little bit more comfort for myself. In retrospect, it was a bad decision. I only got maybe 400 miles out of them, 500 miles out of them, and I was used to getting, you know, 800 or 900 miles out of my Mountain Racer 3s, and I got blisters for the first time with these shoes, and these were like my fourth pair of Speed Goats. So I probably won't be getting another pair of Speed Goats unless Hoka figures out that. Although everybody's foot is different, so whatever. But my feet seem to be pretty narrow. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just a sissy. Whatever. This was a little water spot, really dry section, and there was enough water out here for these little pitcher plants. Sweet little things. Yeah. So beautiful views continue. Yeah. So, there's a number of these actually where there's like an old license plate like 20 feet up in a tree. There's one in the high Sierras, and then there's this one in Northern California that I saw. Very strange. I don't know what the deal is with that. Mm. So this is the walk between I-5 and Etna Summit. This is lupin, and this is certainly shoulder high lupin. You can see how those trees are all black in the background, so they got burned out. And my experience was that a lot of people really, I don't know, they were frustrated or don't like the burn areas. I thought they were beautiful. They're real contrasting things, and I found them to be really unique. And I really love seeing the plants that sprout up in the giant burn areas. So the only thing that I didn't like about the burn areas is that in the middle of the day they're really hot because there's no shade. But they're beautiful in their own right. I think this is elderberry. This is the South Fork of the Scott River. I think so. I camped 100 yards from this. Okay, nice new sign for the Trinity Alps. The Trinities are so spectacular, so spectacular. Okay, so this picture would have been taken just before I got to Etna Summit. My friend Cheryl came and picked me up and whisked me off and made me a wonderful dinner. She and her husband James, we've been good friends for years now, and they happen to have a home up out of in Sayad Valley in the little town of Happy Camp. And so Cheryl picked me up in at the top of um, Mount Etna and drove me out to her. This is her daughter's house in Wairika, and the trail was closed between Etna Summit and Sayad Valley. Fortunately, I had hiked that with my children 4 years ago, and so this is where I break my continuous footpath. Was at Etna Summit, and I think I skipped 35 miles or something like that. This is my buddy James who took me out to a swimming hole. So we went, there's a little rock that we jumped off of and swam around and chatted for a few hours. I got to spend the day with him and see their spot in Happy Camp. So this is, he's a super good dude, one of my favorite people on the planet, down to earth, good dude. And this is Elk Creek, which my friend Patty and I kayaked in maybe 2004. There's like a 5 mile class 4 section. I really hope to do that with my children someday. Anyway, there's James. Hi, James. Now, this is downtown Happy Camp. James took this picture of me, and this is a metal sculpture of Bigfoot. And you can tell it's pretty big sculpture. James and Cheryl made this for the town, decades ago. And so he showed me this thing. It's pretty amazing. Okay, so this would have been me dropped off. I'd been dropped off in Sayad Valley. I spent an evening in Sayad Valley and then hiked up, and this is up on a plateau, obviously. So I didn't have any pictures of the hike out of Sayad Valley. It doesn't look like. Yeah, I'm up on the plateau here. And oh, I'm getting ready to run into Bonito, right? Look at that, how beautiful that butterfly is, right? Sometimes you'll, like a lot of times, this type of butterfly, that butterfly is maybe an inch or an inch and a half across its wingspan. And a lot of times there'll be hundreds of them right next to a small creek, sitting on little rocks and stuff like that. Really beautiful, really beautiful. Yeah. So I'm very close. I'm very close to the California-Oregon border. Okay, there's Bonito. We had spent the night camping in the same place. There's some little old cabin here. And so I got a picture of him. I can't remember where he was from. I only spent a few days with him. Super good dude. Just another, fantastic dude. And so here's the California Oregon border. This was the second time I had been here. I was here with my kids in 2020, and yeah, that's a distance. California's long. That's just a picture back at the trail registry. Can't believe I got that picture of that osprey. That turned out really good. It's great. Oh, I don't have a photograph. Oh, that's a bummer. Okay, so this is Ashland. And so previously, right past the border, about a quarter of a mile, was where I had run into Sandman, Storm, and Tupac. Tupac I had met down in the desert at Hikertown. Storm I had never met, and Sandman. So over the next, I ran into them. I spent like an hour with them at a Trail Magic right across the border of California, Oregon. And we spent an hour, 2 hours, whatever it was, eating hamburgers and drinking. Some guy, another wonderful person, giving out beers, making hamburgers. And then I took off by myself and went wherever I went. I had a few days to go to hike to Callahan's Lodge. And then my mother picked me up at Callahan's Lodge and whisked me off to Ashland, where we spent, I think 3 nights in Ashland, 4 nights maybe. And she uh, brought me my running pack, and so I was able to, like, she picked me up. We went out to dinner, um, and my mother has been going to the Shakespeare film, not film festival, but it's like a theater, Shakespeare theater stuff for basically her entire life with her girlfriends and my sister. I've never gone because I don't care that much about theater. And but my mother knows Ashland like the back of her hand. I'm surprised she doesn't live there. The only reason she doesn't live there is because her whole family is here in California, and we all live close together, and we're all pretty close. And so anyway, she picked me up, and I go from you know dirty trail life to then nice hotel, wonderful dinners, nice wines. We get up and she takes me to a cafe or one of her favorite breakfast spots, and it's all very nice. And then, she took me back to Callahan's Lodge and drops me off, and I jogged. I think I ran 16 miles, 17 miles that day. Then she picked me up on a highway. I didn't have to carry my pack. I just took, I just took my running pack with me. But that first day I took a really bad fall. And Fortunately, one of very small, significant. I bashed myself up a bit. Um, and So whatever. But that was my intention, was to run 15 or 20 miles a day, and then stay in a hotel room, and my mom was just going to trail angel me so I could go whipping up or start moving through Oregon at a faster pace. And worked out pretty good. But one of the days I chose to just take a day off, which, whatever, that's all good. And Yeah. So anyway, or Ashland was really, really nice. And so this was like lunch right before she's going to drop me off somewhere out on a trailhead, wherever. And so it's just insane amounts of food um, that you could consume. Is ridiculous amount of food. My mother, she doesn't eat very much. It's like between the two of us, we ate all of that food. So anyway, this was lunch before we said goodbye to each other. And there's a scab left over from my fall. And so I quickly, when I got back out on trail north of Ashland, I ran into Tupac, Storm, and Sandman. And I had, spent a day or two or three kind of around other people and stuff, but I had mostly I had done a lot of hiking by myself. And I, we were all very compatible. And so I decided to try out being a little bit more social. And I work in the health and wellness industry. So I'm a chiropractor, and chiropractors have the tendency to think a little bit differently than the standard folk. And we do things a little differently. And, we think differently. We have a different philosophy about how you arrive at the extraordinary life. And, and out on trail, you talk about stuff. And I think it's healthy for people to have conversations that matter, right? Like, do you really want to just have conversations that don't matter all the time, or are you willing to challenge people's mindsets? Are you willing to make a difference? Can you make Are you willing to risk having deep relationships and contributing and making a difference and learning? Are you going to bump into something that's real and valuable? So that's where I'm at with things. And so anyway, I know that I had taken this picture. This was the day that I think it was like our pace and everything was the amount of miles we wanted to do at this point in Oregon was all the same. So then we were just all chatting and stuff. And so I ended up spending weeks with them. Yeah. And so this is some cabin. Um, Whatever. I don't remember all these people's names. Just typical good, fantastic people. Some people stayed at this cabin. I chose to keep going. That storm walking ahead of me through some of these lava fields. This is a Brit. That's Sandman, Big Guy, and Storm. That's a picture of Big Guy. This is the day that I think it was Big Guy's idea. You can see somebody just above my head there who's got a headlamp. And so this is me getting a picture of Big Guy. Big Guy is the person that I was talking about that he and his parents gave me a ride off at Bucks Lake to get back to my shade and beer. And so this is a good dude. And I think it was Big Guy's idea that he wanted to do 30 miles that day. And Tupac had decided to stay at that cabin a couple pictures back. And we had done another 4 miles and then camped. And so he had heard that we were planning on doing 30, but of course, the way that it worked out was that that there was nowhere to camp at around mile 30. So we ended up doing like 32 miles. And so this is us. We are probably 28 or 29 miles into our walk. 28 or 29, I don't know. We're late in the day. Look at it's getting dark. But it's probably more like 27 or 28. Well, Sandman and I had just both had coffees, so we were fired up. And so anyway, I grabbed that picture of Big Guy. And so anyway, we ended up tromping around in the dark for quite a while. We found a totally good place to sleep that night, but that was all of our first 30 plus mile day, and that's pretty incredible, honestly, and Tupac frickin' showed up he caught us actually we were 26 or 28 miles into our day, somewhere in there, just before that last photograph was taken. We had stopped for a little bit and we were hemming and hawing about camping wherever and not doing the 30. I wanted to do the 30, but I wasn't attached to it. Big Guy was attached, and he was so close. Or maybe it was Storm that was motivating the 30. I think it was Storm that was motivating the 30. It was Storm that was motivating the 30, and certainly Big Guy was up for it. And And so Tupac, to our amazement, caught us right there. And he thought we were all like gonna camp, and we had like just sat down for a few minutes. And when we got up and we were getting ready to start going, he was wiped out, and his knees hurt really bad. And he was already 32 miles into his day, and I think we did another 3 or 4 miles. And so he was like, well, I'm just going to camp here. I'm wiped out. And we're all like, okay, bro, but like, sorry, you know. And so we took off, and man, um, we looked behind us when we had our headlamps on, and the only person it could have been was Tupac. And so Tupac freaking so then we waited, and so then we all finished up the day together. But he sat down and, thought about some things, and, you know, freaking stepped up to the plate and got up and came and got caught up with us. So that was really cool of him. That took some grit for him to do that. Anyway, this is at mile 1800. This is at night, obviously. And so then I don't have any photographs of the campground and stuff like that. I wonder. So this is obviously Crater Lake. Okay, so this is Five Spice and her dude. That's Sandman there on the left. I can't remember his name. The lady is Five Spice, and she's a hoot. That's a outgoing, funny, verbal, uh, you know, woman. She is hilarious. So this is us at some lodge. I can't remember the name of it. Really, really, everybody stops here. Everybody stops here. This is my campsite. I really like these photographs of my tent set up. You know, so neat. So neat. Yeah, this is the next night. This is a super, super standard. I wonder what that is. Huh. That's very interesting. Whatever. I wonder if that little icon will still be there. Anyway, learning about OBS. So this is just standard thing. Everybody sets up their tent and gets together, sits on the ground in a big circle, and has dinner and tells stories about their day and what's going on. And you know, it's really, it's a good time. It's a good time. This is me. I'm working my way up through um, the four of us. We're working our way up to the Bend area through here. Some cabin. This is Storm. I think Storm's 22 or 23, and this is the first time he'd swung an axe. So it was pretty comical. It's great. He did a good job. He did a good job. Sandman taught him how to swing an axe. All right, here's one of these just devastated fire areas. Unique things. I love these photos. It's just a wasteland, stark. That's a really pretty photo. You walk for miles. It's this beautiful for miles in Oregon. Oregon is definitely way flat, but and you can do really nice big miles through Oregon because you're so doggone fit and it's flat, so you can really put in some miles. It's beautiful. Oregon is absolutely beautiful. So this is me at Elk Lake. This is a little picture I got of this little. I stayed in. I didn't stay here. I just kind of sat and looked at Elk Lake. I'm sure I'll have this guy. I don't remember what I was probably feeding him peanuts or something like that, you know. And I know you're not supposed to feed the wildlife and stuff, and I certainly don't feed bears or anything like that. But um, you know, to each their own. So this is my view out that little cabana, that little sunshade cabana thing. I sat there for hours. Everybody was up partying in the at the bar and everything, and I just kind of wanted to sit by myself. I had a lovely time, and then I think Sandman found me, you know, and then we hung out for a while together. I think that's one of the sisters. Yeah, this was just a little water, a little place to get water, and off to the side it was just ultra lush with sweet little, uh, just flowers and butterflies, right? Beautiful stuff. That's one of the sisters. Yeah, some waterfalls and just beauty everywhere. I was surprised at how beautiful Oregon was, you know, really, really special. This is me. I'm getting closer to McKenzie Pass, and I'm getting really close to McKenzie Pass here. This is a pretty rocky section. Okay, so this is my son Kai, and the few days before this trip, my sons Kai and Teo, they picked me up with their cousins, um, Dean and Caden. The four of them came and picked me up and whisked me off to the McKenzie River where we went kayaking. So they picked me up early in the day and they brought my boat and all my gear, and they brought a raft and a cataract. And so it was Kai, his girlfriend Charlotte. So I think we had 7 people on the water, uh, five, 6 people on the water, and so we did like a 10-mile stretch of the McKenzie, and then we all went out to dinner, and he dropped me off at a hotel in Bend, and then picked me up the next morning. Doesn't matter. Picked me up the next morning and drove me back to McKenzie Pass where I could continue moving north. And so, um, me going kayaking with the kids, I think they continued on and went rock climbing at Smith Rock. And I don't think they did any more kayaking, maybe a little bit. But anyway, wonderful to connect with the kids. They brought me a resupply, and but it put me in a position that I needed to catch my trail family at Olali Lake. So I had 2 days to do like 64 miles or something like that. So this is Kai dropping me off, and I've got a couple of 30s to catch my boys. Yeah, and it's just unending beauty in Oregon, flat, unending beauty. This is the 2,000-mile marker. It was pretty amazing. I took this photo because it was like, oh, I can see the trail. That's so cool. And I got like another 100 yards up into these trees here, and this dude is just standing. Um, he's not as close as he looks. I've got my mobile phone, which these high-end Samsung phones, you'd have to look into it, but my phone's got a 10x optical zoom, which like it's incredible. It's an incredible phone. It's the S23 Ultra. Um, I think the new iPhones are. I think people argue back and forth, which is better. I don't know, but this phone took amazing photo. It did great. Um, I'm not as close to this one as it may look. Um, my memory was that it was like maybe 70 feet away, 80 feet away, something like that. But there was a whole bunch of them. Um, there's like maybe 10 or 12 of them. And I just got to stand and take photos of mountain goats. Like I had never seen a mountain goat in the wild before. It was really, I'd seen bighorn sheep in the Grand Canyon before, but this was really special. And um, I saw them at this point in time, and then I saw another one maybe 3 days later. So I took a bunch of photos of them. I had just seen the mountain goats, came up over the pass, and turned around and saw this photo. I took that photo. This is a little chipmunk. I was getting some water, and this little guy was just too freaking cute. Yeah, see, I was giving him peanut peanut butter covered pretzels, or pretzel covered peanut butter, whatever those are. They're super good. It's one of my favorite photographs from the trip. This is later that day. Like I said, I needed to do 30 plus mile days to catch my boys. Yeah, this must be the next day. Another long day. Okay, so I got into, so what this is bagel and Sandman. So the idea was that I was going to meet up with them at Olali Lake, and Sandman has a good buddy that drove like 6 hours to pick us up. So he left his house at like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning and drove 6 hours to pick us up at Olali Lake, because there's this giant party thing that happens out at Cascade Locks for all the hikers. And so Bagel hooks up with us, and so we're in like a Jeep Rubicon. Um, and so she's in the trunk here. She's in the back of a Jeep. We've got 3 guys in the back, obviously 2 up front, and then Bagels underneath all the backpacks in the back. She had a good attitude about things. Um, and so this Bagels inside this Jeep, right? It's so funny. And yeah, so she's smashed in there. And I think it was like a 3 hour drive to get to Cascade Locks. So here we are at Cascade Locks, and we're at the local brew pub there. That's the Bridge of the Gods in the background there. And it's the Columbia River that the Bridge of the Gods crosses. This is the Oregon-Washington border. And so here's Pusher and Puma. It was really great to reconnect with all kinds of people at Trail Days, I think is what they call it. And there's vendors from from all of the different backpacking companies. There are vendors. And so it was really great to run. I mean, everybody puts in, not everybody, most people put in a huge effort to get themselves to Trail Days, just like us. And so here's Pusher and Puma. You may remember them from Mount Baden Powell. So wonderful to see them. I hope they're doing wonderfully. There's more. Yeah. This is what the island, I think it's called Thunder Island out there. And so there's camping for everybody. Myself and my crew, we had a hotel somewhere. Um, and this is French toast. I had bumped into her. She's like a really quiet young woman, um, and she's pretty quiet, uh, but a lot of depth of character. I really enjoyed her. I was I was more impressed with the young women out there than the young men in general. I don't know what that's about. I think I'm used to men being stronger of character, maybe, or something. Maybe it's something cultural. I don't really know. But a lot of the women out there, they're freaking hardy, cool people. And she was one of the more quiet people out there, but a wonderful, wonderful young lady. This is Fireball. She's like the opposite of French Toast. She's super gregarious, super outgoing, total party girl, super fun, really volatile, completely unpredictable. She was clearly having a very good time out on trail, but as random as they come. Sweet and crazy. There's a picture of Hollywood after he cut off all of his hair. And so we sat around and drank beers and stuff like that. It was good times. There's Tarzan, and yeah. I hadn't seen Ed and Mike since really the last time I saw them was at a place called Mike's Place in the desert. It's at like mile 170 or 160, whatever. I don't know where it is, but it's really early in the desert. And Ed is in the blue shirt. Both of these guys are super good guys. And they had a very successful PCT hike. They had been out there. We hadn't seen them since Mike's Place. We had run in. My wife and I had run into them after we got off of Mount San Jacinto. So it's between Mount San Jacinto and Highway. Oh, I actually don't know. It's before Mount San Jacinto. I don't know. I don't know where it is. But my wife and I ran into them at Mike's Place, and or before Mike's Place, we ran into them about mile 100. They were sitting under a tree somewhere, and we shared a camp with them. And both of them really good guys. And I ran into them at Cascade Locks. It was wonderful to run into them. You know, they were making a beer run, I was making a beer run, and we run into each other in the aisle. And good times, good times. This is the party scene outside of some little place that was dishing out really good beers, and all the hikers are, the whole festival, the whole thing out on the grass had shut down. So this is getting pretty late in the evening. So that's Hamburglar. And that guy from Alabama, I ran into them multiple times. Hamburglar was hilarious. He is a good dude. I mean, both of those guys were really, really fun. And I think the other guy's from Alabama or something. And I remember him. Both of those guys are freaking strong dudes. This was, yeah, some little post office that we had to hit up, and yeah, that's Mount Hood. So if that's Mount Hood, that's Northern Oregon. So we have been dropped back off at Lawley Lake, and so the four of us are heading north from Lawley Lake, um, moving back towards. Now we're starting, and we're heading back towards Cascade Locks to pick up those miles. We're heading north, though. We're heading north. Yeah. This is a picture of a young woman. So Sandman and I are walking together, and we are on Mount Hood. We're on Mount Hood. We're on our way to the Timberline Lodge for lunch. And this was just a striking photo that I took as a young woman off in the distance there. This is us just before getting in. This is Sandman. This is us just before getting into the. Boy, I don't have any photographs of Timberline Lodge. That's a mistake. Don't miss the Timberline Lodge. It might be a $40 all you can eat lunch. It's worth every penny. It was by far the best meal I had out on trail. It was over the top fantastic. You know, I don't have any pictures of the Timberline Lodge. This is the next morning. Incredible. Yeah. This is where we all camped one night. And this is the Eagle Creek Blue Blaze. This is not the Pacific Crest Trail. This is just an alternate way of getting to Cascade Locks. This was closed due to fire in 2020, so the kids and I weren't able to do this section. This is a very commonly taken section because of a waterfall that you're going to see. It's called Tunnel Falls, and I ended up walking with this guy for miles. I'd bumped into him a number of times, and he's a fireman from the Seattle area, recently retired fireman from the Seattle area. And man, I can't remember his name. Steady. Yeah. So this is Tunnel Falls, and you can barely see me in the photo. This is Steady's taking some photos of me here. Pretty big waterfall, but you get to walk behind that waterfall. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Good times. Yeah. Okay. Really rugged volcanic gorge. Tons of photographs that don't do justice. This is me getting ultra close to Cascade. I mean, I'm on the outskirts of Cascade Locks here. I think I'm on the PCT. I'm not on the PCT. Yeah. So this is the Bridge of the Gods. And so I'm going to go ahead and walk out and across this. I think I had left earlier. I think I wanted to be by myself. And I remember just listening to music for hours and yeah. It's more nerve-wracking than I would have expected. This is like the second time I had walked across the Bridge of the Gods, and it's nerve-wracking. There's no shoulder. The traffic is all pretty cool though. They're pretty mindful. They understand that you're in a pretty precarious situation. You're not going to fall, but the traffic, pushes you right against the guardrail, but you can see down below your feet, and it's pretty far down to the water. It's 100 feet for sure. So anyway, I walked across and got these photographs, and then walked back across and and went back to that brew pub that we had been at for trail days, and got myself a beer and waited for the boys to show up. And then my buddy Corey came and picked us up. This is a high school buddy of mine who lives in Spain, in Valencia, Spain, and he just happened to be in town. And he had seen me post something on Facebook, and he's like, "Hey man, if you need anything, let me know." And I'm like, "Well, I've got a really big ask." And I had not seen him since high school. Maybe I saw him once or twice at a club, when we were 19 or 20 years old or something like that. But great guy. And he's like, if there's anything you can do, I'm like, oh, dude, I got a big ask. I need a ride. Me and my boys need a ride out to, it was some lake. I can't remember the lake. It's where we're at in this photograph here. We need to be picked up in Cascade Locks, and then we need to go to wherever. And I'm like, if that doesn't work, just show up in Cascade Locks and let's go out to dinner and have some beers together. And he's like, okay, well, I can definitely do the beers thing, and maybe I can give you a drive out there. I don't know if that's going to work for my schedule or not or whatever. And I'm like, dude, it's a big ask, so if it doesn't work, it's no big deal. We'll take we'll take buses, and we'll figure out a hitch, and we'll figure it out. So whatever. But as it turns out, it worked plenty good for him to pick us up, drove us into Portland, and I got rid of my Hokas, got myself another pair of Mountain Racer 3s, and we all got some food. And then he drove us way out into 30 miles out of dirt road to some lake, and dropped us off. And really great, so here he is dropping us off in the rain, and we're going to camp at this spot that night, and then start heading north into Washington. The trail was closed from the Bridge of the Gods out real close to this lake. And this is just some pictures from that day. And I think what I'll do is call it good from here. And all right, that's looking pretty good. Okay, so hopefully this will be my last live stream for this 2024 PCT trip. It's kind of interesting to me that as I get started with this, it feels like, the trip is finally over, that I'm actually, getting the last part of my video log done. Great, great, great for my future self. So where we left off, my buddy Corey had picked up myself and my crew, and had delivered us to a lake in southern Washington for us to continue north. And this is a picture of some canoeists out in that lake. Yeah, we had a wonderful, wonderful fire that night. It was a really beautiful, beautiful day. We had a number of miles to go to get ourselves back up onto the PCT proper. I don't know, maybe it was 5 or 6 or 10 miles, it doesn't matter. But this was, a grouse that I had noticed sitting up in a pine tree, and I was able to get up above it and shoot a number of pictures. In 2024, we saw a lot. We saw a lot of grouse, and in 2024, I didn't see. So in 2020, we saw a lot of grouse, and in 2024, I probably only saw 8 or 10, and but you hear a lot. You hear a lot of them, but when you see them, I don't know. They're sweet. They're sweet, sweet big birds, mountain chickens. Corey was nice enough to take us into Portland for lunch, and swung into the REI to get myself another pair of Topo Mountain Racer 3s. The Hoka Speed Goat 5s were not worn out, but they weren't the best for me. I got a few hundred miles out of them, and stuff, and they're cushy. So, but the mountain racers are where it's at. And I got to say, I put um, 400 miles on them on the Mountain Racer 3s in Washington. And then I came home with them, and I've put hundreds of miles on them since I've been home. So there's something to look at. Mm. Little side creek. We're getting, I don't know where we are. So this is the knife's edge. Is it the knife's edge, really? It might be. I think it's a common thing for PCT hikers to, when you get into Washington, that everything's just a blur, and you do so many miles every day that um, it just uh, how does yeah how do you keep track of it all? But I'm pretty sure that this is out on the knife's edge. Um, it is reportedly a really beautiful section of trail. It was in the top 5 most nerve-wracking experiences of my hike. And we had, hail or sleet or whatever that stuff was, blowing sideways at 30 or 50 miles an hour. And it's pretty sketchy up there. So, and we had zero visibility. So my hope was for it to just get over with. But it was long. The knife's edge seemed to me like it went on for miles. Yeah, this is definitely out on the knife's edge. And this is a picture from camp the following morning. We got into camp, and it would have been Storm, Sandman, and myself, and we got into camp, and we were all pretty cold. We were pretty cold, that's for sure. It's really, I love the experience where you're in a situation and um, it isn't going to change. Action is the only thing that's going to make anything better. And to watch yourself and to watch others take action and see like how they talk, are they just complaining? Are they just getting things handled? It really lets you know your own character and lets you know a lot about the others around you. It's really, it's quite insightful. And when we were setting up camp the night before this, we had one of those. We had one of those experiences. Everybody was just cold, and the only way to get warm was tents need to be set up, a little bit of chores need to be done, and crawl in a sleeping bag, and then eventually you'll be warm. So, very memorable experience. Yeah. Next day, thankfully, the sun was out, sort of. Anyway, it wasn't raining, so that was nice. This is our camp that evening. That Storm there, and looks like Sandman in the back there. This was a great experience. There were these two marmots, and I have like 50 photographs of this. It's like, is this a lover's spat, or are these two just like, you know, two fighting? And I would generally say that these two were fighting, but I won't kill you with 50 photographs, but I've got a few. But they just stood up and wrestled each other for many minutes, and it was, I wouldn't say it was funny, but it was definitely entertaining and unique. But they were trying to choke each other out and bite each other's ears off, and they were they were tussling.
I think that one on the right kind of got the better of the one on the left. This is a King Boletus. My understanding is that they're very edible, and you wouldn't be able to tell from this picture, just because I don't have anything that any of us know to give it proportion. But that stalk is probably 4 inches in diameter, 3 inches in diameter, and that cap is 6 or 7 inches in diameter. And they're thick. They're really, really thick. And apparently they're very edible. I ran into multiple people harvesting these, and with every intention of taking them home and eating them. I didn't do any of that. Uh, I understand why my son Kai is so fascinated with them, and I would imagine that given the opportunity in the future, I would eat some. If I was running low on food or somebody knew how to prepare them correctly. I think as time goes on, people are speaking more and more highly of Washington, or maybe that's just the my lived experience. But I think that the PCT is generally considered like the high Sierras are like the end all be all of beauty. I would say that the Washington rivals the high Sierras in beauty. Um, and they're so strikingly different that drawing a distinction between the two is kind of a fool's errand. But I would say that each of the states have epically beautiful places. Yeah. So once I had my flight home at 6:22 on Alaska Airlines on September 10th, I knew I needed to get from point A to point B, and yeah. In 2020, these Canada jays, these are um, have rapidly grown in my favorite bird. I would not say that they are my favorite bird, but they're very close to the top. These are they're aggressive and they are not shy. They're really fun. And for degenerates like me who are happy to give a bird a little piece of bread or something like that, in 2020, we were giving out some graham crackers or something like that to them, and they were like landing on us, and they would eat out of your hand and these things. And so I was really hoping to have some really good experiences with them on the PCT in 2024. And I really only saw, probably saw 30 or 40 of them, um, but didn't have any like super close experiences with them. I had this adorable experience with this young lady, another one of these sweet, strong young ladies, and we were setting up camp somewhere, and I was throwing out like little pieces of granola or something like that to the Canada Jays. And she got so mad at me. It was so cute, it's just like, these people that just feel so entitled to tell you what you should do and how you should behave. And it's really cute because if you were the Canada Jay, you would appreciate it. And I know that, and it was cute because I asked her, I'm like, so are you the same person that there's a person on the street that asks for a dollar and you won't give them a dollar just because they didn't work to earn it or something like that. And it's like, well, that's different. And I'm like, it's not different. I mean, we're all just beings trying to make it in this world and providing a little bit of ease as long as you're not causing any damage. I mean, a bird's not going to cause any damage. I understand, don't feed coyotes, right? Don't feed bears. I get it, but people take things a little far. But, everybody has a different perspective of things. You can post your hateful comments below and I won't read them. This is the Amanita muscaria of lore. It's possibly what founded Christmas. It's interesting internet folklore. Don't know if it's true or not, but they're beautiful. There's another King Bletus. That was like 12 inches across the top of it. There's a picture of Storm and Sandman right out of camp. We came into this place, and you can kind of see a little bit of smoke. You see the pond lake thing. You see a rock on the right up off of Sandman's left shoulder. You see a little bit of smoke coming up, and we had every intention of camping at that campsite, but it was filled with a whole family. Looked like it was like 2 or 3 dads and like 6 kids. They were just having a great time fishing, and they had been collecting a whole bunch of the king boletus, and that was their dinner for that night. So anyway, we camped at the upper part of the lake, and it's a great photo of these 2 guys. And we woke up the next day and it was just totally pouring down rain, and Sandman and I are yelling at each other. We only camped 50 or 60 feet apart between the 3 of us, and it's like, hey, this seems like a good day to just hunker down in the tent, and like, do we really need to go walk in the rain? It's like nobody needed to go walk in the rain, so we actually took a trail 0. That was the only one that I took on the whole trip. It was nice. I mean, to like lay in a sleeping bag all day long and do nothing. It was lovely. That's fog down in there. Yeah, I think that's Mount Rainier. Yeah, I think that's Mount Rainier. This is another grouse that I saw. I got to watch them for like 15 minutes while some other people caught up to me. It's really sweet. There were 3 or 4 of them kind of milling around eating stuff. I wouldn't remember what road we're crossing here, but it's like, I think that the etching on the below that bridge says Mount Rainier National Park. That storm up on top. This was, yeah, it's just a road crossing. We quickly headed back out and just kind of kept tooling along. I love that photo. So great. That's Sandman in the photo there. I took a number of these photos. I think, because what I love the most about hiking, walking, is when it's kind of wide. I've said this before. When it's kind of wide and really flat, and Washington is really great for wide and flat. It's got a lot of steep terrain also, but it's really beautiful. It'll be wide and flat for miles and miles. And this was a particularly wide flat section. And I think that I had kind of set out on my own because even though I wasn't in a hurry to be done, I was ahead of schedule by a week or two. So I was not in any hurry, but I was really fascinated with like just the strength of my body, of just experiencing my body in strength. And Storm had an agenda, but he was easily going to be able to finish on time. Sandman had no time frame at all. So, but I just had this thing where it's like I just want to do 30 miles. I just want to be done. I was just getting to the place where it's just like, this is all lovely, but I'm super excited about being home. I want to just do bigger miles. And that was a weird thing for me to experience. And so I think I woke up this morning that this photograph is taken, and I know I'm by myself. And I just wanted to do like bigger days. And I had walked with a good group of guys for a few weeks, and I enjoyed that, and I love being by myself and whatever. So anyway, I took these. There might be another one. Yeah. So in the middle, uh, not the middle, but a few hours into this day, I came across this cabin in this epic meadow. This is a snowmobiler's cabin. You can go in it, and there's knickknacks and whatever, and snacks sometimes, and whatever. And they had a privy out in the back of it, and wonderfully, there was a really fantastic trail magic about a quarter of a mile past this, um, which I won't have any photographs of that trail magic apparently. Um, but I was kind of running low on food, and just another group of wonderful people that brought four wheelers into a very remote part of Washington and fed everybody. Really nice. How it's like kind of like, how is it possible that things that are as beautiful as this, I have no frame of reference. I know this is in Washington, and I know it's in between where I walked away from those dudes, and so maybe I'm going up Snoqualmie Pass. It's in between. I don't know. Yeah, so it must be in between, where it's before Snoqualmie Pass. So whatever this is, it's before Snoqualmie Pass. Because I ended up in this tunnel, and if anybody is going to go do the PCT, I was on my way into Snoqualmie, and I saw this like side dirt road that I could take, and I took this side dirt road, and I had done a 30-mile day the day before, and ended up at another epic trail magic on some dirt road in the middle of nowhere, Washington. And they had Starlink and freaking tequila and really good, no, it was some scotch that they had, and some really good IPAs and tacos and great people. I mean, so I came walking in there. I had just finished up the 30 miles. I was going to go do another 2 to 4 miles, and uh, they're like, yeah, I mean, and they had like good beer and good scotch and tacos, but I was like, my body was like clicking really, really good, and it's like, okay, well, I've done 30, I can definitely hang out. I'm like, okay, well, I'll have a little bit of scotch and a beer and a taco, and then I'll go. Well, you know how those things sometimes can convince you to maybe stay and have another. So anyway, I stayed there, And the next day, I saw some, I had to ramble down through the mountainside a little bit to get down to this fire road that would then get me into Snoqualmie Pass um, with what I thought was a little bit of more efficiency. And that's another time that I was wrong. Um, so I ended up thinking that I would, I'm walking along this dirt road and it turns into a tunnel. And I thought the tunnel was a quarter of a mile long or something like that. Just because, I don't pay that much attention. I don't really care too much or something. I should have paid more attention. I should have cared more. And this tunnel is the real freaking deal. Um, I think it was nearly, how far do you walk in? I don't know. I was in this tunnel for 40 minutes, maybe an hour. I don't know. It was like 50 degrees in there, and I'd come out of the blazing hot sun. I was like sweating, I got like halfway through this tunnel. Because when I entered the tunnel, this is a picture of me literally in the first 100 yards of the tunnel. I'm like, oh, I'm going to take a picture of this. There's the other side. There's the other side. This isn't very far. That is not the other side. That is not the light at the end of the tunnel. That is a light on the back of a backpacker. That's a like a glowy, um, like a piece of reflective tape on the back of a backpacker that's like 150 yards ahead of me. And but it looked to me like it was the end of the tunnel. And so it looked to me like I was just gonna like walk through this thing and then I was gonna whip right into um, Snoqualmie Pass. And that wasn't what happened at all. Um, that wasn't what happened at all. I walked and walked. I was chasing this light that like moved forward for so long, and I noticed I had like ultra good 5G inside the tunnel. I'm like, what in the hell is going on? And so they have repeaters set up all on the inside. Anyway, I was in here for 40 minutes, an hour, hour and 20 minutes, whatever. And when I got to the other side of this thing, I was so far away from where I needed to be. And I ended up on it was like some freaking superhighway, 4 lanes in both directions. Um, so I walked along the freeway for like 3 or 4 miles. It was, the tunnel experience was really great, but walking along a freeway, thankfully, it had like a 10 or 12-foot shoulder, but it was a bit disconcerting. Everybody's going 70 to 80 miles an hour, right? This is the end of the tunnel, some old defunct train tunnel that I walked through. This has got to be the next day on my way up. So I went into Snoqualmie Pass into the town and stay the night in another one of these hostel things where they allow you to make your own food and whatever. It was wonderful. It's, very inexpensive, right off the trail a little bit. Sunfish and I hung out quite a bit that evening. Lots of trail people. There's 30 trail people there. It was wonderful. This is up out of Snoqualmie Pass. Um, and that section was super spectacular. You come up and out of Snoqualmie Pass, the town, and then you're walking up on a ridge, and it's just super beautiful, just as far as you can see. beauty, beauty. This is something called, I think they call it the catwalk. And it's, 6 feet wide, something like that. Very, very narrow with epic views on both sides. And the epic views just go on for miles. It's ultra spectacular. This was wonderful, wonderful descent. Rugged, rugged, beautiful country. Yeah. So a little pika I saw late that evening. I got water out of this little creek. This would have been 15 minutes before I found a place to camp. This would have been the next day. It doesn't really surprise me that I don't remember much from this because I was doing reasonably bigger miles, um, not taking very many photographs. I think that's pretty common as you get deep into your trip. Hats off to the people that can still really just stay on it and keep taking photographs. But it's like, if you've taken 3,000 photographs, all these pictures, these are the 1,000 best photographs of the thousands of photos that I took. So, um, at a certain place, I found myself, it's like, well, that's not super incredible. So I'm not going to take the photograph. Very interesting. Another little pika. More King Belitis. This was a really big descent. This is me. I'm coming into White's Pass here. This is coming into White's Pass. There's just this waterfall of cloud fall coming over this ridge. I think I'm technically inside a ski resort at this point in time. Yeah, I was. And so I got to the top of this ridge and then walked down, and it was just White's Pass was just completely socked in. And there was another fire closure, like a 30 or 40 mile fire closure that I needed to get around. And um, I uh, I had screwed up my um, departure place for the Stehekin ferry, and the lake on Lake Chelan. The lake is pretty long. I think it's 40 or 50 miles, something like that. And the only way to get to Stehekin, other than by trail, is to take a ferry. And the trail was closed due to fire. So I was taking the ferry from the little town of Chelan up to Stehekin, but I didn't pay enough attention to the details, and the ferry was actually going to pick me up like 17 miles up Lake Chelan. And so I realized this like the night before. I had a hotel in Chelan, and I tried hitchhiking to, I think I realized it the day that I had made the reservation, and I worked really hard to get my resupply done and hitchhike up to that place. But I failed at getting a hitch to that area, so I went back to Chelan and got a room for the night. That's right, because I didn't have a room for the night in Chelan. I was just going to go into Chelan and resupply, and then just go wait for the ferry, and then after my resupply, I went to where the ferry was supposed to pick me up, and they're like, that's tomorrow. And I'm like, no, it's right here. And they're like, oh, that's 17 miles away. And I'm like, I have a problem. So that was a mistake. That's all right. I nailed my trip so freaking good that making some mistakes is okay. This is just some of the, what would it be? North wall or west wall of Lake Chelan. And this is the bridge over some little creek. It's probably the Stehekin River. Right out of Stehekin. I spent a couple hours in Stehekin. I really wanted to spend a whole day there because my kids had uh, in 2020 they did the whole state of Washington by themselves except for from Harts Pass to the border. My wife and I showed up and we did that last 30 miles with them. But when they were in Stehekin, they were by themselves and they spent a fair bit of time in Stehekin and they really raved about it. Kai said it was his favorite part of Washington for sure, one of the super highlights. And so I was really excited about spending some time there, and it didn't work out because I ate up because I had screwed up my ferry ride. I was now a day behind my itinerary, and so I didn't have time in Stehekin, but I had enough time to have lunch and go to the cafe a couple miles away and grab a coffee and whatever. But it wasn't the leisurely experience I would have preferred. Yeah, this is some totally cool, cable bridge, uh, wherever 5 miles out of Stehekin. This was this was such an amazing experience because I was like deep in my day and I see this plume of smoke and I'm like, wow, that's a new fire. That is going to cause some problems. And so I like, inside of my head, it's like, well, it's not, certainly not going to affect me, blah, blah, blah. And I look at the map and the direction that I'm going, it's like, oh my God, I'm supposed to walk like right through the middle of that. It's like, oh, and I have every intention of covering that entire ridge line that you see where that plume of smoke is. I'm going to do that entire ridge line later that day. And uh, but I didn't know that because you don't really know where the trail goes and stuff like that. But as it turns out, I continued on to the right of this photograph quite a bit, and then I walked along that ridge line all the way to the left of that plume of smoke, went around that really horned mountaintop to the left of that plume of smoke. I went around to the left of that and then walked straight towards that plume of smoke. And as it turns out, that plume of smoke turned out to be obviously a very big fire. But it still, even though I was walking towards it like all day long and it created all kinds of angst in me, it didn't come into play, but it gave me a fair amount to fret about. So this is me 50 miles from the border. Yep. I haven't talked hardly at all about the huckleberries and the elderberries and the whatever berries, you know. This is the kind of thing I just pigged out on these things. You eat them by the hundreds. You eat them by the hundreds a day. You're walking along, you just grab a branch, strip the branch, and you've got 15 berries in your hand. You just eat them by the dozen. They're incredible. They are incredible. I'll bet this is Let me see what's next here. Huh. Yeah. I bet this is the night before I finish up, get to the border and whatever. I'll bet it is. So interesting. Because this is pretty close to the border. Yeah, for sure it is. So this is my last morning before getting to the border. And yeah, beautiful. Morning is a little bit of light happening. And so I'm off and gonna go do that last bit of walking to get to the border here. Yeah. This is about 4 miles from the border. I hadn't seen sunfish for, maybe a week or so. Um, so he's on his way back. He was on his way back to go and clean up pieces of the trail that he missed due to fires. And so he's coming back up from the border. So he's, I don't know, 4 or 8 miles from the border, whatever it happens to be. And so we passed each other on the trail. So I'm glad I got to snap a photo of him. Good dude. This is 1 mile from Canada. It's good to finish. Yeah, I'd been eating a lot of berries. That's why my hands were so mucked up. But I had taken with me like let's see here. How many miles? I wonder how many miles I was in this day. I was probably 12 or 15 miles into my day here. And so I sat at the border for probably 2 hours. That's it. It's a interesting thing to process, finishing up something like this. It's not very dramatic, it's just okay, well, this is what we're doing this day. It's whatever, and it's like it's done. It's like, okay, well, whatever. You still have 30 miles to go back. And so I was kind of laying in the dirt, drinking some Rebel Yell, some 100 proof whiskey, and that was yummy. And I had a lot of it because I'd brought a fair amount with me, but I just hadn't been um, drinking it very much. But I had a fair amount with me, but I'd probably had like 4 or 5 shots of really strong whiskey. And then I got this thing in my head. It's like, well, okay, you've done 12 or 15 miles today. It's like, could you walk all the way back to Hearts Pass tonight? Like, is that like something, that's reasonable? And, I got a little bit of a bee in my bonnet, and I'm just like, okay, well, I guess I should pack up and go. And I'm like, I didn't really think that I could do it or would want to do it, but I'm like, well, I'm sufficiently liquored up. I'm gonna go give it a go. And so anyway, I started walking back, and it's what my hands looked like because berries were just so plentiful. And so these are just pictures of the sun going down, and pretty. Oh, this must have been the night of an eclipse or something. No, that's the sun and that's the moon. So just beautiful. So it's just sun's just getting lower and lower and super beautiful. And some of that which I had hiked through, like it was very dark, but this picture, my camera's in night mode. The last number of pictures, my camera's in night mode, and this Samsung S23 Ultra is insanely good. And so it brightened everything up really well. And a few miles of this evening was really sketchy. The next photo is from the next day, and so I didn't take any photos when it was pitch black, but this was my biggest day of the entire trip. I did 36 miles, and then I left myself, I think, 12 miles to get back to Hart's Pass. But I saw this big old green bug in the trail. I had to take its photo because that thing was huge. That was a big, big bug. Here I am back at Hart's Pass, and that's the that's my experience of the Pacific Crest Trail. And my like final thoughts, like the resounding thing, was that in the last month, if somebody would have asked me, "Hey, are you happy that you've done this?" Yes. Will you do it again? Absolutely not. Will you ever do another long trail? Absolutely not. Like, there's no reason to do anything like this. This is fantastic. This is an incredible life experience, blah, blah, blah. But will you ever do it again? It's like, no. I'll tell you, within 3 weeks of being home, and my life at home is epically, it's really good. I've got an incredible family. I've got a I've got a couple businesses that I run that I absolutely love. My life is really good. I got home and it's like, being out on trail is really special because, I'm part of that fortunate few people that have a profession or a avocation or whatever I do for money, a career that I would do for free. I love it so much. It makes such a huge difference to others that I would do it for free. And so that small percentage of people are in that space. And but trail life is hard and uncomfortable, but it's very rich. And being alone in the wilderness is really valuable. And being at home in your ticky tacky box that you live inside of with all the comforts of everything, it's nice, but and it's comfortable, but um, it, it's also pretty stifling. And so I've got a, I strongly recommend everybody to go and do this. And I would generally say that most people could go and do a similar trip, even if you just did the Arizona Trail or the first 700 miles of the PCT and skipped San Jacinto and Baden Powell. I'm an advocate for it, you know. I'm an advocate of section hiking, but I would say that you're not doing yourself any favors if you're out there for under a week or two. It's just not enough time, in my opinion, to uh, let some of the deeper stuff bubble up. So anyway, I'm a strong advocate of it. And if somebody was to ask me 3 weeks or a month or 6 weeks after I got home from the trip, hey, you gonna do something like this again? It'd be like, absolutely. And now that I'm 5.5 months finished with this trail, I already have plans to go do the Arizona Trail with my wife next year. We got to get the kids through the Continental Divide Trail, the CDT, this year. And so we'll go and do that. And so, it's it's a great trip. And so anyway, that's my story. I'm gonna stick to it.